Welcome to Fargo Talks Fargo, a podcast on the FX television series Fargo. If you haven't figured it out by now, I'm Bill, and I'm back with another season with my pal Charpie. We both grew up here in Fargo, didn't we, Charpie?
Growing up, saying that, I guess, is a little bit subjective.
Oh,
but
well.
We were born there.
Well, according to some of our reviews, we're childish, so that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah,
if we're going off our reviews from 8 years ago, we're childish. I'm a know-it-all. But either way, best of friends.
I think it's a pretty good podcast if people know us that well, just immediately.
Yeah, well, they did.
I mean, they were spot on.
If you feel otherwise, feel free to go review us. But hey, we're back. Holy crap! It's been a couple years. Obviously, we've talked in between that, but welcome back, everybody. Or if you're a new listener, welcome to the show. I'd say we've sort of altered the show over the years from season 1 through 4. But boy, how do we just get straight into this? FX really threw us this curveball with 2 full long episodes in one night before a holiday weekend. You're traveling. Other people will be traveling. This is bananas. What do you think? We got to break this up different, don't we?
Yeah, we'll break this. So this is the hot dish, right? So it's usually our like quick hot takes after a single episode, but we've got 2 episodes, so I think we'll maybe make this a longer hot dish, a larger casserole pan, you might say.
Maybe this is a hot dish plus a green bean casserole on the side?
I think a green bean casserole is a hot dish.
That is actually true. I stand corrected.
I mean, some people might disagree, but it has been a long time. The this whole Fargo saga has really kind of gone way longer than I think either of us anticipated.
Oh, absolutely.
It's been, the last season was 2020, so COVID was in full swing. Remember, it got delayed from COVID. It was supposed to be in April of 2020. I think the last season ended up premiering in like September of 2020. So we were still in like the thick of it.
Was it really?
And
oh, God.
Now that's so that was the first year, at least in the United States, of that whole experience, and I'm glad we're kind of past that now. And then since the whole thing has started, I can tell you exactly how long it's been. 3,507 days, Bill, since the TV show kicked off. That's 9 years, 7 months, and 6 days. Not almost 10 years. We will have been doing this, which neither of us signed up for.
Well, I know, and sorry to regale you with non-Fargo TV show directly related stuff here, but I will tell everybody, our wonderful listeners, which, by the way, we do appreciate each and every one of you. We met, Charpie and I met, was it this last summer or summer when we knew John Hamm and a few people had been announced? You and I sat at a bar in Fargo. You were here on Broadway downtown. And I said to you, late-ish at night, are we going to do this? And you look like you were going to sink. And I said, come on, we're completionists. Yeah. We're here for the ride. So that said,
I guess
we're here for you, for this.
Man. The fans.
So
the quote unquote.
So we're going to try to do our version of a fast hot dish that covers 2 episodes in this hot dish, right? We're going to cover episode 1 and 2, but we will only talk about 1 first and then only talk about 2 next. No, so if you're listening to this later, you're later people, like a year later, 2 years later, we'll give you a big break in the middle where you're going to hit some spoilers. Maybe you don't want to know. I don't know. I mean, obviously casting is a cool thing to think about. All the big players that we think of when we talk about the show are back. I mean, obviously Noah Hawley's writing, Dana Gonzalez, director of photography again, and we've always talked about his style and his work. Jeff Russo's back, just tons of characters. Maggie Phillips also back, I saw in some of the credits. I mean, I can only imagine that they've got just such a running knowledge with each other. I just feel if you like the look and the feel of this show, they're delivering again with very, very high level of talent and things with that. Anything that excites you?
It's a very unique look in this show. And to be honest, I thought the crew maybe had changed up a little bit after watching this first episode, because I thought it felt a little bit different. I mean, it's still definitely unique and apart from other shows in its overall texture. But I was like, oh, I wonder if some of the crew has changed a little bit. And then it hadn't. I was surprised to see that it was still Noah Hawley and still some of those same people. Even Jeff Russo, I was like, oh, maybe they don't have Jeff Russo back, because in other seasons, the Fargo theme song is really woven all the way through each episode. And this one, it kind of just only like touched in a few little moments. It didn't have like big grandiose entrances or exits. They really kind of like put a lot more texture in the music as well.
I mean, solid opening with I've seen all the good people, which was great. And you just lead in with such fantastic stuff. But like, since this is the hot dish, we're not going to break down big items. We're not going to, really hit into this. But I knew Jeff was still involved, especially somewhere around the scene at the home for the photograph with the guns and whatnot. They just hit those classic drumline moments. That's what I would call them, the Jeff Russo drum lines, the snares. True. I'm just going to admit right now, prepare yourselves just in general this season for me. I've got a heavy man crush on Jon Hamm. He's in my pretty top lexicon of like actors that I really just love their work. And I actually, so far, even in episode 1 and 2, which we're not talking about just yet, I really feel like this is great. That he's fantastic. Is there somebody that really excites you about this on the show, like cast wise?
Well, I'll get back to Jon Hamm in a second, but that's the fun thing about this show, and I think that's what keeps us coming back, especially doing this podcast, is that every season the cast is just so fun. And every season it's a totally new, band of characters, and it's a handful of people that are very prominent and you've seen in other works, and mixing them all together in this totally like unique soup of this universe is so fun to watch, because all the characters are so fun and interesting and different from other characters that they've played in the past, and seeing all these people combined every single year in a different way with a whole new batch of people is so... It's I don't know how to else describe it. It's just it's very fun. And Roy Tillman, the character played by Jon Hamm, did he just take you over the top, Bill, when you saw those pierced nipples?
That was.
I wish I could have seen your face. Or maybe I wouldn't have wanted to. I mean,
technically, you just skipped ahead to episode 2, but I won't call you out on it. Maybe somebody caught that. Maybe somebody caught that in one of the trailers when Roy talks about, well, whatever it was he said, it bothers you seeing me in my moist repose. What I was most worried about was I was excited to see Juno Temple cast as Dorothy Lyon. What if I can't shake Keely from Ted Lasso, because I think she's fantastic in that show. But I thought she did a fantastic job out of the gate. I really thought, obviously they are the big people of the show. Roy and Dot just really shone, and I thought Sam Sprue as Oli Munch, which, by the way, just totally sounds like a dish we would make here, right? Like, oh, have you been over to the cafe for the Oli Munch?
It's like our version of Puppy Chow. Oh, it's Oli Munch.
No, lots of great stuff. Really fun for us. I think this will be nice. Really hearkening back to season 1 and the film, that it is spanning North Dakota and Minnesota. And just saying those words makes me super self-conscious of my own upper Midwestern dialect. But super cool that we're kind of back in the state. New listeners, maybe. Just hot take. Fargo, the city, is on the border of Minnesota. And so we also, that's part of our deal, is we want to try offer a Midwesterner's take on some of this stuff as people who live here in the area. So, we've got Scandia, Minnesota, by the way. It's a real town. It's not a town that would have what Scandia there has. So,
how about Beulah? I saw Beulah being mentioned in the show. Have you ever been to Beulah?
Yeah, I've... You know what? Shout out to Beulah. I have, but odd enough, Beulah isn't in Clark County. That's not. Beulah is in Mercer County, I believe. But this is that show, right? Like you and I had a whole bunch of conversations in season 1 about like nobody just takes a quick drive from oh yeah, you're going to just drive from Bemidji to Duluth? Nobody does that. It's a shit drive. You wouldn't just go over there. You'd call. And even this whole Clark County, it's definitely Western North Dakota based, because those kind of rolling fields that we've seen in both episodes a little bit, the Tillman stuff, is very much Western North Dakota, right?
Very much. Western with more of an emphasis, less of an emphasis on, cowboys and rawhide, and more of an emphasis on meth and oil.
That is north. That is more north of the Bismarck area. You got to remember, Interstate 94 splits the state in the lower third. You get up there, you might be right. But, I mean, hell, we used to hunt on a bull and cattle farm. But, yeah. You get out there, it is definitely more roly-poly, very Teddy Roosevelt. You get back to Fargo, which is 2-3 hours away across the state, and you're into the pretty rolling plains of a glacial bottom of a lake bed. But, so we got Scandia, sure. We got Clark County, we got Beulah. Nobody knows where the hell Ole's from. I mean, the man enjoys a kilt. He wants to be free.
I love that character. I mean, that guy's obviously a reflection of Gare from the movie, right? That's what you're saying? That's what I'm saying.
Such good touches of building us. Like, what was the number one thing you saw and you're like, oh my God, it's this sort of retelling and mirrored image of the 1996 Fargo film?
1996, yeah. Yes.
What did you see that you were like, shit, they're really doing it?
I mean, it had to be the ski masks and the two guys coming to kidnap the wife, and they're peering in through the sliding door. I mean, it was like exactly the movie, and surprisingly so. I mean, I wasn't expecting to kind of do a rehash of that original movie again. I thought we kind of did. I thought we were kind of moving away from that, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Like in the first season of this TV show, there were a lot of direct references. And I thought, okay, we're building off of that. We're taking it into its own universe. And now it seems like we're coming back again, like full circle, and making more direct references to the movie, which I was not expecting at all. I thought we were going to be kind of like extrapolating further and further and further and abstracting out from the universe. But we're being taken right back in, like, throughout this first episode, all over the place. Yes. From like references to Jerry Lundegaard, to the kidnappings, to the car dealerships and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was way closer to the movie than I was expecting, which is a surprise and a welcome one. I think it's comforting, it's nostalgia. Yeah,
for whatever it's worth, you and I don't like as much as we can, we don't deep rabbit hole stuff ahead. Like, I didn't even, not gonna lie, until I sent you that link last night, like 2 hours before the show aired, I didn't even watch that little explainer teaser, I
didn't even watch that when you sent it to me, because I didn't want to know anything.
So just so you guys know, Charpie and I we also don't watch the next time on Fargo. So if you're like, hey, idiots, that's coming up, we just, Charpie and I have a little bit of a long run tradition of like certain types of trailers and stuff. We don't like what it gives away. I don't like what it does to my brain sometimes. So yeah, I'm with you, man. The minute he put the kidnapper had the hammer, and I was like, because the original film was a crowbar, but I just love that he was gonna smash the window, and then he's like, "Hey, is this just open?" Which, by the way, in small town, Minnesota or North Dakota, completely unshocking, whether you're home or not, to have a door be open.
Yeah. I was getting a little too much, I have to be honest, a little too much of a Wet Bandits vibe in that whole calamity of the kidnapping. I don't know if anybody else was, but I'm sure you will once you get into, well, I'll pause there, but a little bit too much of a Wet Bandits Home Alone vibe to me. It was, I know it was supposed to be comical in a sense, and it is a quirky universe, but these two were a little bit too close to the Wet Bandits to me.
Yeah.
I was expecting them to say, I was expecting at some point in the show for there to be a keep the change, you filthy animal. Like, I was like, is this are we referencing Home Alone here or Fargo? I don't know. Or maybe it's a combo. That's okay too. It's the holidays.
I like the idea though that they're turning a certain amount of the stuff on its head. very similar, but instead of Kristen Rudrid's, I'm sorry, her name, the character's name escapes, Jerry Lundegaard's wife's name escapes me, played by Kristen Rudrid from local here. I just thought instead of her being hidden behind the shower curtain, I love that it was something else. I love that she's a don't mess with me, like, kind of powerful lady right out of the gate. Like,
sure.
The show opens with her tasing somebody at a school board meeting.
Have you ever been to a school board meeting like that?
She'll mess you up. We still got a dim-witted husband, right?
Big time.
But instead, we've got a gal who is not to be, well, there's more we can talk about in the next section, right? We'll talk soon. But I feel like we should wind down our quick hot takes on this. I don't know why this struck a chord with me, but I mean, like, two moments I loved was, I don't know why, but when the husband, when he's like, will it bother you if I watch Blue Bloods? I just had a flashback to my folks because my parents, like, I'd call and they'd be like, we can't talk right now. Blue Bloods is on.
Big Donnie Wahlberg's fans.
And then the only other thing that I loved was, like, I love Coen Brothers' world of, like, ridiculousness. And the guy describes that he's got an air horn and he's explaining it to him. And then eventually the guy blows the air horn and he literally just gets blasted off the earth. Was there a moment for you that you were just like, love it? Just, I need more. I can't wait for more of this.
You know what? I'm not usually like this, but it was definitely that action scene. I'm not much of an action, like, fan, but when that whole scene was going down at the gas station, the way they do it in this universe, I absolutely love it, with the big drum beats. And I loved seeing Lamorne Morris. I actually had no idea he was going to be in this season, because that's how little I've been paying attention to the trailers and stuff. So that was a nice surprise. I was like, holy shit, Winston, this is going to be great.
Right. You keep waiting for Jess to pop out.
That made me really excited. And then when that kind of led into all this Fargo universe action and the air horn, that was amazing. I think that was my favorite part of the whole episode because it was so fast, right? It just pops up, and then the guy doesn't, Oli Munch doesn't even, like, look over. He just, like, points the gun and shoots.
Yeah.
Amazing. So that whole scene was my favorite, and I'm super excited to see more of Deputy Whitfar. The names are always so good. They're so short, which is not like the actual area. They're always, like, super long, very Scandinavian names. Not a lot of Oli Munches or Whitfars or Gator Tillmans.
Gator. I don't know anyone named Gator.
Danish Graves is a good one. I'm excited for that character, played by Dave Foley as well.
I mean, just that's another exciting one for me. Just seeing Dave Foley, I was like, yeah.
With the eye patch, the white eye patch really takes it over the top. That was, like, a nice touch.
My only other, like, sort of towards the end, there's, like, way to tie the room together with the Lebowski rug was grabbing the ice scraper off the shelf and using it to help with the tourniquet.
Yes, I was hoping that you're going to mention that. Yeah.
I just felt so good.
And all the little, like, quips and stuff when, right away in the very beginning of the episode when Dot's husband, they've got the rental car and he's talking about how good it is, lots of leg room. Very, like, Jerry Lundegaard undertones there. So it's fun to see that stuff come back, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more. Well,
that's sort of that. We'll call this the tail end of our hot dish of season 5, episode 1, The Tragedy of Commons. So if you are a later listener to this, you're going to listen in a different order, I think it would be good for you to pause this episode now. If you don't want to hear us mention anything from episode 2. You should just come back to this later. If you're with us still, kick ass. Charpie, we got, as much as we want to try and make this quick, we're never good at being quick. So episode 2, The Tragedy of Commons. Like, I feel like we got little peeks at the idea of John Hamm and Roy Tillman and Gator and that world and, wherever the hell Oli Munch is from. What was like right away, I mean, we opened up back in Scandia at the house, obviously, right? Dot's home, and he has the whole thing. But we'll have to dissect a lot of this. Like, what's her obsession with Bisquick? What's your early hot take? I mean, like, episode 2 definitely leans into We gotta learn more about Tillman's. We gotta learn. By the way, they also this show really loves people who are the parking lot king, the grocery king, and now we're working with somebody she's the dead queen,
yeah,
right, yeah,
the big no behind her. Let's talk about the sets real quick because they are very. I had to. I was watching this live as a lot of you were, and I was taking pictures on my phone of the sets and the locations because I couldn't pause it, right? A lot of the locations are also very reminiscent of previous seasons. The Lion's house made me think a lot of the Stussy house. I actually thought that it was the same house. I don't think it is.
Yeah,
but I was like, oh my God, is that the Stussy house? It's like the same house? And the same thing in Dot's kitchen. I thought it was eerily close to, remember in it was season 1, I think, where they're having the funeral, like the little wake, and they're making hot dishes, and they're kind of in the kitchen there with Molly. That was her name, right?
Molly Solverson shows up to the widow, played. I can't remember the widow's name, but Julianne Emery, who very, very graciously granted us an interview. But those seasons, we're gonna try every year. We try to get somebody, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah, so that kitchen was very much like it was the same layout, everything. I thought it was the same. I don't think it was. After they replayed it after the live airing. And I rewatched it again, and I was like, I don't think that's the same kitchen, but it was very close.
I think it's because I get very distracted by the sets and the set dressing because those people in every TV show, not just Fargo, they do such a fantastic job of like bringing you in, Easter egging you, showing you things that are there for a reason. And I know a lot of people who don't want to think about a show this deep. And that's fine. I only do it for this show. I don't do that at every show I watch. But yeah, you're right. There was a lot going on in the houses, in the sets, in the, I can't wait to dissect the art, in some of these rooms, like Lorraine's house.
Oh my God. I mean, they clearly focus on that painting. It's like two guys riding on the back of another guy, right, in like colonial times or something. Like, I cannot wait to find out what that painting is, if it's a real painting. I mean, obviously it is for the show, but what's going on there? There's got to be a story. Somebody out there knows it. If you do, email us.
Podcast at Fargo Talks Fargo. We don't, just also for the record, we don't really actively use our social media that much. Our Twitter and our Facebook may disappear, but you can always email us and we'll do our best to get back to you, which reminds me, I have some other story to apologize for. I'll do that in the next breakdown. But like even at her desk at her office, though, just the word no. It's behind the desk. Lorraine's desk. It just says no. No. We get to learn a lot about Roy and the way he feels very early in this episode where he's, we get it. Dot comes home and she's trying to pretend like nothing happens. We all know why. We can talk about this more later, but what a weird situation of him, and they're at a place, I think it was called Little Texas, between Lenore and Josh Hunk were their names. The couple that he was like kind of like counseling on, like, hey, you beat your wife too hard the wrong way. And he's punishing for it because he's this supposedly godly man. And for whatever it's worth, they talked about Beulah. Fun, if you want North Dakota facts or whatever, there is a town called Beulah. It is outside of Bismarck, North Dakota. But Beulah is a biblical Hebrew term for Lord's country. And I don't think that's a mistake about that, the use of that, because Roy has this serious... He is the arbiter of morality and religion, based in his religion and his religiosity and what is right and wrong, even though it's very clear he's not on his first wife.
Wow.
Which, things apply to Roy differently than the rest of us, right? And I think that's where we get that. I mean, was there anything like super, like just roughly thinking about the first half of Trials and Tribulations that stuck out to you? I mean, I just thought they did a really good job of laying out in about 5 minutes what Roy is really about.
Absolutely. I mean, they kind of set the tone almost immediately. So we kind of know that this is gonna kind of be a guy who's like, he's not really like you could say he's a no bullshit guy, but not in an honest way. He's it's my way or the highway kind of guy. You know, I bet he has like a big old thick ham steak every morning for breakfast, and that's just the way it's going to be always, every day. And if it's anything different, the world is going to know. And it seems like he's got a son, Gator, that is just striving to be what Roy is, his father, just this godlike presence that just commands and demands. And Gator just probably will never fulfill those shoes, always trying to, maybe gets a little cocky. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a happy ending for him, but I'm also curious to see where Gator comes from in terms of like his name. Why Gator? What does that mean? It will be interesting to see that duo conflict with each other probably throughout the entire season.
Yeah, I mean, if you get down to it, no joke, I'm looking at this. From the open of the episode, and even if you don't even think about the parts with Dot and being home, it is not almost 9 minutes. They introduce this exposition where we learn a lot about Roy and how he treats other people, his position of power. And on top of that, this very interesting conversation between Gator and Oli, right? Like, we learn a lot about him, and then the minute he's like, get him his money, and immediately is double crossed in a way, right? Like, not double crossed. Mm-hmm. He's betrayed by the whole thing immediately. Like, oh, they're gonna mess me up. And I just thought, wow, that's 9 minutes. 9 minutes in what was a 58-minute episode. They told us so much, and to me, say what you want about
that was really only 9 minutes.
9 minutes. I shit you not, dude. I have it pulled up. So, I mean, I can't wait for us to go back and really break this down, because I think we were given a lot of information we're going to need in that front half, along with the fun things. You know, the woman abides. There was a thing Oli said something about, and I don't remember the direct quote because I can't type and think that fast. He talked about that he believes in nothing, and I thought, he's a nihilist, you know. Mm-hmm. Shut the fuck up, Donnie. But I thought the thing that I really love there that I think really is going to stand strong is he gave this comment about she wasn't a housewife, she was a tiger. And if you want to feel free to do your own homework. I went and two things. Touching back on the first episode, the tragedy of commons is a metaphoric label for a concept from economics and ecology and science. I'm reading this from Wikipedia. I didn't just form that in my brain, but it's very interesting. I would go look at that. We're going to talk about that later. But the other interesting thing, it is a very old thing. It's called The Lady or the Tiger. It's a short story from Frank Stockton, and I think this is going to be a part of a central theme in our big breakdown. Her last name's Lion, right? Well, her current last name is Lion, and Lion is also I'm lying. You're lying in wait. I don't know. It's Jeez, so many
Bill,
things.
You got some deep cuts here already.
Oh God, I got all sorts of shit I can't even say just yet.
You're coming out spicy.
Super spicy.
After 3 year, this is a 3 year hiatus all bottled up for you, huh?
Oh, I know. I'm so many things, but was there something for you that stuck out real hot? Like, cause that for me, it was we need to know more about Oli. He knows things. He felt incredibly betrayed he thought it was an easy job and they weren't paying him the right price for an adversary. She was an adversary to him. You know, I think that's the thing. And I think she's an adversary for many people in her life. I mean, hottest moment for me was she's at the table with Lorraine and she totally un-Minnesota nices, right? And we haven't even talked about that yet. She un-Minnesota nices. Her voice changes. She leans in and she opens with, "Listen, bitch." And then immediately goes back to, "Anywho, thanks for stopping by." She is not to be messed with. She wasn't a housewife. She was a tiger. Was there something for you that stood out like in a very different fashion from this episode? Aside from the incredible moist repose, John Hamm nipple rings, and the ass shot.
That was the primary thing, the nipple rings. I had to actually walk up to the TV to make sure that I was seeing that right. And so glad I did. Huge payoff there. But no, not like anything like super specific.
I want to see that picture, Charpie. I want to see the picture somebody accidentally snapped of you.
Is that?
Somebody snaps you just like face first in John Hamm's nipple rings on screen.
I'm in a hotel room, so I was watching, where you watch TV in a hotel room on a bed. And I like sat up and I was like, wait a second. What? And I walk all the way up to the TV. Oh, yeah, there's a nice little ball bearing there coming out of his nipple. Yeah. Maybe it's a crappy
both
TV,
nipples.
too.
Both nipples.
Yes, both nipples. So nothing like that specific, but it's classic. What stood out to me, I guess, was just like classic Fargo universe where you have not just two opposing parties, not just a protagonist and an antagonist, but multiple parties who think they're owed something. So You've got the Lyons family who now thinks Dot owes her something and she's got a debt to be paid. And then you've got the sheriff and his kid who think Dot also has a debt to be paid to them. So now you've got these two parties after one thing. This poor little woman, Tiger, I mean, two parties coming after her, and we're going to see those clash. And obviously she's going to be in the middle of it with her weak little husband, Wayne, who's probably going to surprise us with some heroic moments. But we've got three basic parties here with some others sprinkled in, the sheriff's office, or not the sheriff's office, but the deputies. We've got the Fargo FBI guys who are coming in as like the big city folk, the big city feds. So that will be interesting. So lots of different groups kind of sprinkled in, but overall like three major groups kind of converging toward the center, which will be interesting to follow. And classic Fargo universe.
Yeah, it's funny that you said they have debts to be paid. Did you catch at the very end what was on the sign when Ole stabbed the other guy, and then there was a cardboard sign that he had left on the body?
No, I was trying to read it and I couldn't pause it.
It says, "You owe me."
Okay.
So yeah, I sorry, I thought that's what you were trying to get to with your like, there's debts to be paid, and I'm like, there is. It's a debt. Like, you owe me. They were supposed to pay him, and instead they tried to take Ole Munch down.
What we're doing is we're laying out all the debts on the table. All the chips are on the table. So now we know who thinks who owes what. And basically the game is on the board and we're about to play.
Yeah. These seasons of Fargo have a long-running thread of kings of industry and things ruining things for the regular person. So go back, look at the Tragedy Commons, think about Trials and Tribulations and the tiger and the lady, but just, I don't know.
All right. So we've got, I think 10 episodes this season. So we're already through 2.
Yeah. And we're this is a combination one. So maybe later we'll break it up, but, we're going to have a nice Thanksgiving. You take a break, those of you, if you're listening to this later. I hope whenever your Thanksgivings happened, it was fantastic. We're going to record on Friday after Thanksgiving, do our best. And we haven't decided. We're either going to record 2 full episodes and keep them in one, or we'll break them up into 2. So stay tuned for that. But welcome back, everybody. We appreciate you. Thank you, Charpie, for continuing on the journey here. It's going to be a wonderful thing. It's a Halloween fun time show, which, by the way, this is going to happen soon, right? The Nightmare Before Christmas stuff.
Yeah, the Nightmare Before Christmas music was a very nice surprise.
So there you have it. We'll Charpie, we'll talk soon, and the rest of you, thanks for joining. And if you want, drop us a line at podcast@fargotalksfargo.com. It's the best way to reach us. That's about it, right?
That's
it,
it,
man.
All right.
Peace, buddy.
See you later this week.